Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Godot platformer series, where you will create a full platformer game. Start by opening Godot and double-clicking on your project. You can then hit play to see where we got up to in the last video. As you can see, we have a player character that is able to move around and jump, however it looks very plain as there are no animations. But before we can fix that, there are two things that we need to fix. First, click on the player's scene, then on animated sprite and then the sprite frames in the inspector. Delete your current frame on the idle animation, and add the new player walk 1, as I feel it works better. Next, let's go to our script, and change our jump force to -850 instead of -700. Of course you are free to play around with this value yourself, as you see fit, but I believe this values works fine. Now that these are out of our way, we can start by creating our animations. Go back to the player scene and change the player sprite frames once more. This time, create a new animation and call it walk. You can then grab the first 3 frames from the blue player walk in your art folder, and drop them in. Set the speed to 13, and keep loop on. You can then preview the animation by clicking on animated sprite, and changing the current animation from idle to walk. As you can see, the animation starts playing. If we then hit play, you can see that there are two problems. First, the player animation is not flipping to face the right or left, and the walk animation doesn't stop when the player is idle. We can fix the first problem by going to our scripts, and using the $sign to access any of our player child nodes. In this case we want the animated sprite. We can then use fliff equals true and fliff equals false, when the player presses A or D, in order to make them face the right direction. If we then hit play, you can see that the player faces the correct direction when walking right or left, but the player walk animation doesn't stop when the player stops. We can fix this by going to the scripts and head to where we stop the player's movement, since that is when he is idle. We can then use the $sign again to access the animated sprite, but this time we will use the play function to play the idle animation. But now we also need to set the player's movements back to walk when we press A or D, so let's do that simply by copy-pasting and changing the animation name to walk. If we play now, you can see that the walk and idle animation work perfectly. However, there is still no jump animation, so let's add that next. Go back to your player's sprite frames and add a new animation, call it jump. This will also only be 1 frame, so set speed to 0, and loop to off. Then grab the player walk 4 sprite, which we will use as our jump. You are free to choose any other sprite. Now if we go back to our scripts, we can check if the player is not touching the floor, by using the exclamation mark before is on floor, in an if statement. So this statement simply means if the player is not touching the floor, do something. This something will be to play the jump animation. Now if we play for one last time, you can see that everything works perfectly. Now that our player movement and animations are complete, we will be creating a tile map in the next video, so that we have nice looking ground tiles, instead of the current test ground. This will be it for this video, and I will catch you later. Bye bye.